Hello and welcome to the award-winning Tough Girl podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Williams. Today, I'm thrilled to announce a special collaboration with Innovate, a world-renowned and ambitious sportswear pioneer. Innovate will be sponsoring the Tough Girl podcast throughout the month of June, with new episodes going live every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 a.m. UK time. Innovate is a UK-based company, and it is their mission to empower the world's physical and mental fitness through more fulfilling sporting experiences. I've been wearing Innovate trainers and sportswear since 2019 on all my adventures and challenges around the world. Most recently over in New Zealand while I walked the Tiara Trail, and in Spain when I was on the Camino Viva de la Plata. With Innovate's support, I'm able to continue showcasing incredible female role models who take on adventures and physical challenges. Stay tuned for an incredible episode filled with stories, insights, top tips and advice to motivate and inspire you. To find out more about Innovate, visit the Tough Girl website or search Innovate Sportswear online. You can also use the discount code ToughGirl15, ToughGirl15 to get 15% off your next order.
I'm Erin Leider-Pariser, and I'm based in New York City and Aspen, Colorado. Two really diverse places. City life and mountain life. And I just wrote a book, and it's called Get Lost. And it's all about my journeys I've been taking with women around the world to places that are off the beaten track. And I've been doing this for 30 years. And I've taken wild and crazy women, places like Tasmania and Myanmar and Cambodia, and on the Camino, and on the Komodo in Japan. We've been getting lost together. And I have to say, it's been really wonderful and purposeful. And I'd love to share it with you.
I'd love to know, when you were younger and growing up, were you adventurous? Were you encouraged to spend time outdoors? Was that part of your childhood?
Well, interestingly enough, I grew up in Miami Beach, where it was pretty much summer all year long. So I was pretty active. I was born the third girl in my family, and my father really wanted a boy. So he decided to treat me like one. So I was the tomboy in the family. I played sports. I played baseball, football. You name it. I was out there. I went to every football game with my father. I went to the driving range with my father. Yeah, I was the boy in the family. It was really cool. Adventurous? I'm not so sure I was adventurous. I was a cheerleader. That's what you do in Miami Beach. I was the captain, and I did the splits and the pikes and on top of the human triangle. So adventurous, I'm not so sure, but I guess later on in life, went to school in Boston and did a semester abroad in England and decided to be adventurous.
Whereabouts in England did you go?
London.
Was going to London, was that part of the reason that you started to become more adventurous or started to travel more? Like what?
So when you're going to school in London, well, first of all, Europe in general, you can be in a different country in an hour. I just took that opportunity, and every weekend I grabbed a pal and we went to Scotland, to Ireland, to France, to Italy. We had a couple weeks off and Christmas break, and I made my girlfriend, who actually is a stat tripper today. She's gone on many of my trips, and she explains that probably she was the guinea pig way back when, and she didn't even know it. We hitchhiked. We went to Israel and Greece, and we actually hitchhiked on the road. I'm talking 45 years ago, when hitchhiking wasn't so dangerous. We would get into pickup trucks, and, wouldn't advise that today, but we were adventurous back then.
Was it hard moving back to the States after your time in England and spending all this time traveling and going on all these incredible adventures throughout Europe?
No, I guess not really. I was just used to it. It was just an experience that I relish and I remember so fondly. And it gave me the travel bug.
You mentioned STAT, which stands for Sports Travel Adventure Therapy, which is a company that you founded. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about how that came about and being a founder and an entrepreneur and in this world of, well, to be honest, sports, travel, adventure, and therapy. Like this incredible combination that you've put together. Can you take us back to that time and what your experience was like?
Of course. Well, it was really a series of life events that led to my organizing empowering trips for women. As I mentioned, I'm a cheerleader kid from Miami Beach who found her way to New York City via a stint in Los Angeles, training at the Jane Fonda exercise studio at the height of the exercise craze. I moved back to New York and I took that training and I got a job at this wonderful gym in New York City called the Vertical Club, which was very popular. And I decided to teach the Jane Fonda method. And I did that for many, many years in New York City while living here. And I accumulated a clientele. At that time, people were looking for personal trainers. So I ventured outside teaching to a big class and I taught people in their own homes, celebrities, people that just didn't have time to go to the gym. And then I went back to school at Columbia and to study exercise physiology and nutrition and received a master's degree because a lot of people at that time were getting injured as weekend warriors. So one thing led to another. And I was at the forefront of another popular craze of being an exercise physiologist to some influential and well-known people. And then in the middle of everything, I got married, had a couple of kids, and my husband decided it was time to move out of New York City because it was better for the boys. So I went kicking and screaming. It was an unexpected turn of events. And so it forced me to reevaluate my career as a commuter trainer. So that's when I decided to take it on the road. I had clients that were willing and game when I organized an active journey together, and they invited friends and then another where I actually invited friends. And it was an organic process, which turned into a 30-year purposeful life with these crazy women. So I created a niche where women can bond with each other in nature, out of their comfort zones, in gorgeous places all over the world. Now, my first trip was, now again, I was saying I was looking for purpose in my own life, and I was just bringing everybody along for the ride. So my first trip was my first sort of business trip. I wouldn't call it a business trip because it was really a trial run. We went to Wyoming, to the Tetons. We hiked. We, went to, I actually did a climbing trip before the actual hiking trip, which was a really interesting time because I didn't actually make it to the top because my friend was really scared, petrified to death. And that's when I decided that it was, all about the journey, not the destination. That helped cement that view. And then my second trip was Sedona. And this was in the middle of the New Age phenomenon, all modalities of sweat lodges and Native American traditions. And that's where I got the idea of organizing a ceremony with my girls to bond the group together. So I ask everybody before a trip to think about something that they're manifesting in their life. And we talk about it on the second night together where everybody's already familiar with each other. We've already hiked a day. And it's called my talking stick ceremony. And we sit around and we share intentions. We share intentions for living. We share manifestations of life. And I find this ceremony brings the group together like no other. It's a bonding experience. People can get as deep as they want. They can be as shallow as they want. They can talk about losing 5 pounds. If that's what your manifestation is, fine with me. But it brings a lot of tears. It brings a lot of intimate moments. And we tie our offering on this talking stick that we find on the first day of our trip together. And it really sets my trips apart from all other trips like Backroads or Butterfield and Robinson's, or, because a lot of times I started this business 30 years ago, and this was really something that was not done. I mean, women trips it was just a niche that I created. And now you can go online and say women's trips, and about 6 of them will pop up.
You're a pioneer in the space, which is just amazing. When you have, especially like a group of women who maybe don't know each other at the start, and then maybe people are then sharing what they want to manifest, and that can sometimes maybe be quite a vulnerable moment. In terms of group dynamic, especially when traveling, when people are maybe feeling uncomfortable, they're outside their comfort zone, and travel can occasionally be quite sort of unpredictable. How would you handle sort of like those types of situations? Has there ever been sort of a challenging moment on a trip, and how did you, and what happened in that experience?
Well, as I said, by the way, being in nature transforms an individual from the sheer beauty and stillness. So it's pretty much the highest of power. And I feel like you become this vulnerable person, but it's not, there's no judgment. Like you can be as vulnerable as you want. And this is an opportunity. I actually support you. I give you a platform to share your most intimate of intentions. And I find that when you say it out loud into the universe, it becomes a reality. And anything that you say out loud, it becomes like, okay, this is my truth. I mean, it must be, because I'm actually talking about it. And that's why the ceremony brings tears. And I welcome that. This is what happens on my trips. They're transformational moments. They're what sets me apart. And people come back. I mean, I've had people cycle in and out for 30 years. And we make friends. We bond. We create lifelong friends. I put together people for roommates, and they become lifelong friends. It's really heartwarming. I relish all of that. But as far as challenging moments, there was one challenging moment on a trip that I had, because one of my biggest jobs here in organizing these trips for women is getting the group dynamic right. Now that's a skill. And I wasn't so skilled at it in the beginning. And so now I'm pretty confident when I put together a group, they're going to jive. And in the beginning, we went to Santa Fe, and I put this group together. And for some reason, like the 3rd day in, it was just not jiving. The group dynamic was just clashing. It was like oil and water. And the 4th day we got to Santa Fe, when we came from Bandelier National Park, and we checked into our hotel. It was a ranch outside of Santa Fe. We dropped off our bags and went to dinner. And when we got back, our rooms were all ransacked. I mean, they took cameras, they took watches, they took whatever they could. And I mean, we got robbed. And it was really, I mean, it's such a violation getting robbed anyway. But getting back to our rooms, and I just sat there and went, wow, now the universe is telling me that this group dynamic didn't work. And my intuition did not kick in for this. And that's one of my 7 principles, is honoring and obeying your intuition. And it just didn't work. Everything is a silver lining, because I learned so many lessons from that trip. And I learned to really pick my group. And I mean, listen, it's not always, it's not a science, but I rely on my intuition for this.
You mentioned that was, one of your 7 principles, and you have recently written a book, Get Lost, Lose Yourself to Find Yourself. And have you ever gotten lost?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Well, really, like this is why I started the business, because I was lost. I was lost in my own life. I was searching for meaning. I was searching for purpose. I moved out of the city and I felt like I needed to find something that really fulfills me in and out. And, that was really the impetus for starting this company. And it's really given me purpose. So, and during these 30 years of traveling with women, I've created my own set of principles for trekking life with grace. And these just resonated with me after every trip. They just kept resonating with me. And the first one is nix the competition, because it doesn't matter if you're in the front of the line or the middle of the pack of the trail, because the journey is about how alive and grateful you are in every step. And the second one is walk with integrity. As the saying goes, integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. So to have integrity is to walk life with honesty, sincerity, truthfulness, humility, and a sense of responsibility. So I find that, we all live through adverse times and traumas, and how we navigate through these daggers defines our integrity. And actually, I learned a lot on that trip that we got robbed, because a lot of people didn't handle it the way that I would, hoped they would handle it. The third one is no judgment, because judging another doesn't define them, but it defines you. We don't walk in anyone's path. So drop your assumptions, avoid the gossip, and meet others with an open heart, which I do. My fourth one is start with effort and finish by grace. I find that once I've prepared for everything, I can relax and leave the rest to the universe, which is what I call grace. So in other words, when I plan these trips, I dot all my I's, I cross all my T's, and then I have to sit back and ask for grace. Like I have to ask for good weather. I have to ask that the flights are all on time, that we all arrive together. That's like, you can't ask for grace if you don't make the effort. And my next one is mark your words, because I have power words. I'm a meditator, so I meditate every morning. And I found that over the years, I've gotten like these power words for some reason. And they're clarity, consciousness, equilibrium, effort, grace, intention, integrity. And the last one is love. So I try to recite them every morning, and sort of like a mantra, just to center me. I mean, I encourage you to get your own power words. I don't know how they become my power words, but it's really nice. They bathe me in calm. My next one is my intuition, my love, honor, and obey your intuition, which actually I didn't listen to my intuition. And that led to writing this book, because, I was in Aspen. It was January 2020. And I had just taken a yoga class and I had felt like amazing. And my husband said, let's go take a ski run. Let's just, take a few runs. It's a gorgeous day. Let's spend the day on the mountain. And I felt so loose. I felt so good. And I was like, oh, I don't think I could do it. I'm just, I'm too relaxed. I can't go and do a bump run. And that's usually what he likes to do. And I silenced my intuition and said, okay, you could do this. Come on. It's a gorgeous day. Let's go out. And sure enough, on that first run, I caught an edge and I fell and I fractured my tibial plateau. And I had to go down the mountain. I had to go to whatever. It was a disaster. And that was January 2020. I went to the doctor. I was down for 8 weeks. It was just a disaster because I thrive on my activity. And then 8 weeks later, COVID hit. So here I was totally down. And I decided, okay, if you can't get out there, you got to get in there. So I decided to write this book about all these glorious trips that I've done with these women over the last 30 years. It was a gratitude book. And I'm really, of course, in retrospect, I'm thrilled. I call this book my COVID book because it's a love letter to all the women who have journeyed with me and every woman exploring life beyond the everyday. And the most important principle and my last principle for trekking life with grace is what you do really well, Sarah, is you embrace your community. I find that during COVID, I think that everybody was embracing their community. We were all affected physically, emotionally, and mentally. And I've witnessed it through this time and how tough it is to be isolated from friends and loved ones. So I was constantly reminded that loving connections start with our ability to be vulnerable and face ourselves and others with authenticity. So it's that old adage, love your neighbor. It's true. Love your neighbor, baby.
Was it hard for you to get traveling again after COVID?
It was. I missed it. I missed the camaraderie. So yeah, I actually planned the first trip back from COVID was my trip to Nepal, which talk about tough girl challenges. This was a tough girl challenge. This wasn't for everybody. At 17,000 feet into Gokori. And it was a really tough one because COVID was still with us. We had to get COVID shots. We had to prove that we had a COVID shot when we got on the airplane. We had to get them to go home. It was challenging. It was still challenging.
Were you climbing a mountain there? Were you going on a hike?
Oh, it was a trek. It was a trek from, we flew into Kathmandu and we went from Lukla to Gokori. It's a very well-known, well-worn track. And I think it was like 7 days hiking, really strenuous, staying in these huts, but there was no rush. It was just walking all day, every day. And it was really bonding. And it was just wonderful to be out of my comfort zone and for everybody to be out of their comfort zone in these beautiful, beautiful Nepalese mountains.
When you travel so much, do you ever get travel burnout? Sort of last year, I was almost doing like back-to-back adventures. And then in October, I headed off to New Zealand via South Korea and, spent 4 months walking the length of New Zealand. I was back in the UK for a short while before walking the length of Spain on a Camino. And I think sort of partway through that, I was starting to think, gosh, I feel as though I'm not really appreciating what I'm doing anymore because it's become a new normal just to be traveling and doing these amazing adventures and challenges and seeing the most beautiful parts of the world, which I know is just like such an utter privilege. But I couldn't work out that I was either having that feeling of like, I'm just not appreciating it anymore. And I don't know if that was due to travel burnout, but have you ever experienced anything like that?
Well, Sarah, I think that you travel and you go for long periods of time. Like when I've done the Camino with my clients, I've done the last 100 kilometers twice, once on the French side and once on the Portuguese side. I would have travel burnout if I would travel, I only do 2 trips a year and they're usually no longer than 10 days. And I find that I'm ready to leave when I go and I'm ready to come back when I come back. I don't go for very long periods of time. Maybe that's why I don't get travel burnout, because I think that if I was on the road for so long, I would have travel burnout. I need to regroup. I need to I need my home base. I need my travel, but I need to get a balance. And I found that I have a balance because I only do 2 trips a year with clients. And the rest of the time I travel with, my husband or my kids but I never get travel burnout with them because we're not gone enough. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And actually, that's really useful, actually, because that's one thing that I'm trying to work out at the moment is what does the balance look like in terms of like, and obviously this is different for everybody, but what's the correct amount of adventures that I can go on? Because obviously I do enjoy them and I love doing them, but there's the balance between the cost and getting sponsorship and then creating content and, mixing all of that in. I haven't gotten it right, I would say, over the past sort of 6 to 9 months. I think it's been a little bit too full on for me. But to almost like talking of like being full on, I know that you've survived a few interesting challenges. I'm just going to say a couple of words and then I'd love for you to share the story. So Colombian Trail, flash flood. Would you like to
Yes,
share that story with us?
sure. Listen, all these like stories are really wonderful in retrospect, but not when you're going through them, obviously. I had this brilliant idea of doing the Lost City Trail in Colombia. And so I said, oh, it sounds great. It sounds like really rugged, just what I'm in the mood for. And I gathered some people to go along with me. And it was really tough. So surviving a flash flood, I grew up in Florida, and when it rains in Miami, it really rains. I mean, torrential downpours. And it's the same thing in Colombia. When it rains so hard and it doesn't stop. They're not tropical storms where it's like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. So on the trail one day, it was raining so hard that there was, an area with a hike where you had to go over, water, and we couldn't pass over. It was like a flash flood. And one of my fast hikers was up in front and she got across the river. The rest of us didn't. And we had to wait 3 hours until the rains subsided in order for us to get across the trail. Now, imagine what I'm thinking about my fast hiker that's already over the river. And I don't know where she ended up because we were with the guides. And thank God, a universal smile is golden here because she found her way into this little village and she just waited for us. But those were the longest 3 hours of my life, honestly. And just trying to stay dry, trying to stay warm. I mean, because you're wet, you're cold, it was not pleasant, to say the least.
That must have been really hard.
Well, the whole hike was hard. The whole hike was really difficult because you stayed in these places with, on a hammock. You had to sleep on a hammock with 30 other people. And it was not conducive to, but I was happy, listen, it's always in retrospect. I was happy I did the Lost City Trail. I meet Colombians now, like all over, and I say, hey, have you ever done the Lost City Trail? And they say, oh yeah, that's like a rite of passage. Growing up in Colombia, we have to do that. So I kind of feel like, oh, all right, I did that. I checked that off the list.
What else have you got on the list? What are your trips for this year?
I have one going to the Azores. That's in Portugal. It's an island off of Portugal called San Miguel. And I have a group going there in November, and it's a volcanic island, and it is supposed to be, or it's known as the Hawaii of Europe. So I'm looking forward to that. I have some trips on on my bucket list. Like I've never been to Egypt and I would really love to go. Maybe this is not the time to go to the Middle East, but looking forward to that in the future. And, couple other, I'd love to go back to Tasmania. I don't usually go back to places I've been, but Tasmania was a very special place. I don't know if you've been there.
I have. Did you do the overland track?
I did.
Amazing.
I did. Amazing. I loved it so much. It was hard. It was really hard. I mean, but it was just so gorgeous. We did the Freycinet National Park. We went to the museum in Hobart. It was wonderful. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous place. So actually, when I left there, I said, I'll be back. Yeah. And I don't usually say that about places right away, but I look forward to that.
I did that in February 2020 because I was over in Australia before everything sort of kicked off. So I'd literally flown back into the UK at the beginning of March before all the lockdowns happened. I ended up, reminiscing about Tasmania and Hobart and the overland track. And I was like, I film all my challenges, like editing the vlogs. And it really is like a stunning, stunning part of the world. And I'm sure I read somewhere as well that it's got the best air quality. But it's just.
That wouldn't surprise me. It was so clean. It was such a clean country. Yeah. Have you ever done the Komodo Trail in Japan?
I haven't.
Because you can get dual pilgrim status. I love that. I felt like such a superstar when we did that.
I've heard that it's quite roady though. Is it lots of roads?
Not at all. It's a covered path. Very moss covered. Lots of steps, lots of stairways to heaven. Maybe there's different routes, but we took like an 8-day route.
This is it. I have to, because that is on my list of places to go. But I'd really love to go to South Korea. So South Korea have recently they've got 3 coastal paths and then the DMZ with North Korea. And they're connecting all 4 of the trails up. And it's going to be something like a 4,200 kilometer walking route that you can do. And, I would love, love, love to do that. That was one of the reasons I actually went to Korea on my way to New Zealand, was just to visit, just to get a bit more sense of the vibes. Like, would I be able to cope with the language barriers? I'm gluten free? Like, would I be able to eat food over there? How did I feel comfortable? Which I did. And so I would definitely love to go back. Yeah. I mean, like we said before, there's just so many amazing places to visit and, adventures and challenges to go on. And Erin, I would love for you to share, where are you most active on social media? Where can people find more information out about you and STAT and your book? Where should they go?
Well, my website is stattrip.com, STATTRIP.com. You can find my blog there, my upcoming trips, where to buy my book. You can buy it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or wherever buy your books from. You can listen to my book. I recently did the audio version. I had an audition to read my own audio. I obviously won. So if you want to spend 6.5 hours with me, take me on a hike and you can hear me tell my stories.
Erin, I'd love for you to have the final words of advice, final words of wisdom for other women out there who want to go on more adventure travel. They want to go and experience the world and basically get lost. What advice would you have for them? Apart from, please don't say, just do it. You can take it in any direction that you would like.
Well, I would love to say that it's not where you are, but where you've been. There's something about looking back in order to move forward. And I think that this book was a cathartic exercise for me in celebrating how far I've come. So I would encourage all your listeners to embark on that journey and celebrate all the wins leading up to there now. I would say get lost more and take it on the road. Start your own STAT trip with your own tribe. and have meaningful conversations around the campfire, complete with your version of a ceremony of sorts, manifesting your dreams. And last, I would say, listen to the universe and what it has to say to you. It may be subtle, but if you're quiet enough, you'll hear it. Everybody has clues. There's always clues along the way. And remember that everything happens for a reason. So embrace it.
Absolutely. Erin, thank you so much for coming on Tough Girl Podcast to share more about your life and your stories and your love and passion for adventure. It's been amazing to speak with you today.
Oh, thank you for getting lost with me, Sarah.
Hey tribe, I really hope you enjoyed that episode with Erin and it's inspired you to think about your next adventure and your next challenge. Everything that we have talked about today will be available in the show notes at toughgirlchallenges.com, so please do go and check it out. Innovate is sponsoring the Tough Girl podcast this month with new episodes going live every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 a.m. UK time. So Innovate is a brand that I've been working with for the past couple of years. I've been wearing their gear, and on previous episodes I've talked about the Storm Shell jacket, the pink hoodie, and today I just want to share a little bit more information about the trainers. So on the last big hike that I did, which was walking in New Zealand, the Te Araroa Trail, over 3,000 kilometers, I wore two pairs of Innovate's trainers. I wore the Rockfly. On the North Island I wore the Rockfly G350 men's, and on the South Island I wore the Rockfly G350 GTX women's. Let me just give you a little bit more information about those trainers. So when you hear G350 in regards to Innovate, that is just talking about the weight of the shoe. So on the North Island Rockfly G350, the trainers weighed 350 grams. Now, they are men's trainers. I don't really think trainers have a gender, men and women's. It's, to be honest, it's whatever trainers fits your feet best. What I did with these trainers is, did I wear them in before? Yes, I did. So I actually wore these trainers out on the Camino Primitivo. So did a couple of 100 miles to sort of wear them in. Super, super comfortable. They are amazing on multi-day hikes. They really can take a battering. I mean, on the North Island, I mean, there was a lot of tarmac, but there was mud, there was forest, there was sand, there was seawater, there was rivers. There was a lot going on your feet. Key thing is about the weight. They are really light on your feet, which when you're walking big distances day after day, it can make a massive difference. Key thing about Innovate as well to remember is about their grip, the graphene grip. The grip is just sensational, especially when you're walking on wet rocks. The insoles, they are removable, so you can take them out to dry them, or, you know, if you've got your own inner soles, you can replace them with your own. For me, I had no complaints with these trainers at all. They did an incredible job, and I 100% recommend them. However, with trainers, any trainers, the key thing is they have to fit your feet. So it doesn't matter how good the brand is, how well made, the quality. If they don't fit your feet, they're not going to work for you, basically. So what I would suggest is that you do test them out. And for me, I have been wearing them for the past 4 or 5 years now and not had any issues until my most recent challenge, which was on the Camino Viva de la Plata, where I actually had huge feet issues, which I've never had before with Innovate. And I think that's for two reasons. One, they've got a different design in one of the shoes, and I think I'm normally an 8.5 in every Innovate shoe, and I should have got a 9 in this shoe. The second thing that I think it could have been is I think my feet could have grown from all the walking that I've been doing over the past couple of months, and so now I'm more like a size 9. But I have written these reviews on the website, so please do go check it out, especially if you're wanting more sort of specific information. Now, on the South Island, I wore the Rockfly G350 GTX women's. Now, these are actually the world's first waterproof hiking shoe. They cost £160, but you can normally get a sale on, and you can use Tough Girl 15, Tough Girl 15 to get a 15% discount. The weight is 350 grams. Yep, South Island of New Zealand, 647 miles, just over around about 1,000 kilometers. The terrain: beaches, rocks, mud, swamps, seawater, river water, gravel, concrete, cycle paths, dirt tracks, grassy fields, farmlands. Pretty similar to the other shoe. These are the women's version. The main difference is actually that these are waterproof. Now, waterproof trainers, I'm slightly like, do I like them? Do I not like them? They are perfect for when you don't need to submerge your feet. So you can do rock hopping in them, absolutely fine. And as long as the water was pretty shallow and didn't go over, your feet were kept super dry, which was amazing, especially, you know, when it started to rain. Absolutely loved it. However, when you are crossing a river, the water's going to go in to the shoe and you're going to have wet feet. And it will take a very, very long time to get the trainers dry. You can dry them in two ways. You dry them with sunshine, or you can try and dry them with heat from a fire. If you can dry them in sunshine, you are good. Oh my goodness, you're absolutely good. They'll dry super quickly, not an issue. You get some good sunshine, you're great. If it's the end of the day, you cross multiple rivers and it's so annoying when it's the end of the day and you just get your feet wet. Actually, it's more annoying when it's the beginning of the day. I think my record was that I left where I was staying, and within 2 minutes, my feet were just submerged and wet because I was walking up a river for like 5 kilometers, just wet feet all the time. Anyway, back to drying them. The other option is later on in the evening, say you are staying in a hut or somewhere, you can try and use a fire. What I have found is they just don't dry. They just don't dry with heat from a fire, not like they do with sunshine. These shoes took an absolute battering. I mean, take a look at some of the photos. By the end of the trip, the sole had actually separated from the shoe on like the final day. This was about like 8 kilometers from the finish. So I had a little hole in the bottom. And so little pebbles were getting in. So I fixed it with a bit of Compeed, like a Compeed plaster onto the inner sole. And that sort of helped me get through the final 8K. Like I've said previously, roughly you're going to get about 500 miles from your trainers, depending on what you're doing, if you're wearing a heavy pack, if you're not wearing a heavy pack, etc. And if the trainers are also getting time to recover in between walks, still absolutely love them, well worth checking out. But they do need, like I've said before, they do need to fit your feet. The trainers have to work for you, and everyone's feet is slightly different. If you are based up in the Lake District, then please do go and visit Innovate, one of their stores, test out their trainers. They're also all over the UK, and you can also get them, to be honest, all over the world. Visit Innovate's website, innovate.com, and don't forget your Tough Girl discount, Tough Girl 15, to get 15% discount on all of your Innovate products. If you have got any specific questions, or is there anything that you're not sure about, please just send me a DM, probably best on Instagram. Ask me the question. I'll happily respond to you and come back to you with the information. All that's left for me to say is, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, give it your all, give it 110%, get after it, go for it, believe in yourself, because I believe in you. Take care, lots of love, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.